All right, everybody, what's going on? We back with another edition of the ATL Three Style Podcast. I am one of your co-hosts, Leo G. And out to the south side, I got my boy Banks. What's going on, Banks?
Leo, what's good with you, brother? How you feeling?
Man, I'm feeling good today, man. Gonna get right into it, man. Some ATL sports talk as we always do, putting out content from a fan's point of view and perspective, man. Before we get into it, man, I want to shout out our partners real quick, man. You already know what it is, Banks. Let's go out and shout out our boy on the east side.
Yeah, check out my boy Phil on the east side, Eastlands Woodworking Company out there, doing all your woodworking needs. Anything personalized or something that's dear to you, hit my boy Phil on that QR code and tell him we sent you.
Absolutely, man. Absolutely, man. Shout out to my boy Phil, man, putting in that work, man. Got to get some more orders in. Obviously, you do as well, Banks. We talked about that and discussed it. So we'll get some stuff made. Maybe we get some custom stuff made for the show. I don't know. But we'll see how that works out in the future. Banks, man. Our boy Derek O is not in it tonight. I don't know what's going on with him, man. He'll be back here at a later date, man. But hey, we're gonna roll with it and we're gonna talk about some ATL sports like we always do. Shout out our boy Derek O, man. Banks, I hope you staying warm, man. It's crazy weather here this past weekend, right?
Well, the typical winter here in the ATL, you get a scare, and then everyone clear out the stores, and then you get one little tiny little flake, and it shuts everything down. Can't say I blame the city because we don't have the infrastructure and the resources like the up northern states to clear out some of this winter weather. But I tell you what, people from up north that come down here say they love it. The fact that a threat will shut the city down and no one has to do anything but sit at home and be happy.
Man, listen, we can't do this like we did in 2014, man. That was absolutely insanity, man. So listen,
and it would never get to that point again. You best believe that.
I will take the shutdown, man. Shut it down, man, before we get like it was in 2014. Because those of us that lived here in 2014, that was not a cool move when that happened. And, we shut it down in the middle of a business day. It was all crazy. If you lived in Atlanta in 2014, you know how chaotic that was. So, man, if they say it's going to be some type of winter weather, whatever, 48 hours out, 72 hours out, shut it down. Hey, I'm okay with that, man. Because like I said, I don't want to have kids stuck on buses for 14, 16 hours like we did in 2014. All right, man. Listen, Banks, we're going to get into the meat of the show. We're going to start talking about a little bit of Falcons talk, man. This is another carryover, man, because there's a lot going on with the Falcons. Obviously, we have a lot of other sports teams here in this city, but it's just so much going on with them that I want to get into and talk about because we had something very, very important that happened today. Banks, just real quick, man. NFC, AFC championships, man. Got our Super Bowl teams, Seattle Seahawks and the New England Patriots, brother. How you feel about that, man? Super Bowl, I think it's 60 coming up out there in Santa Clara.
Well, as long as it ain't Kansas City or Philadelphia Eagles, I mean, I guess, somebody knew what, some people still don't like the fact that the Patriots back in there again after their little short rebuild that they had. And here they are back in the big dance, That Robert Kraft in New England, man, he's doing something up there in Boston land.
Hey, man, a little bit of luck helps too as well, man. Obviously, yeah, man, some teams do it better than others, and they have had their share of luck and success up there, man. It's like, dang, can somebody else have some luck? Obviously, and then you got Seattle on the other side, who has now presented themselves as one of those teams. I mean, they've had some very good success. Obviously, they fell off a couple of years. Pete Carroll out, bring in Mike McDonald. Obviously, one of the things I want to talk to you about the Seattle Seahawks is Sam Darnold, man. The story of Sam Darnold in the 5 or 6 NFL teams that he's played on looks like he's finally found a home. It looks like he's now, it appears that he's turned the page and become, I want to say elite, but one of the better quarterbacks in the league now with Kubiak in their offense out there in Seattle.
What a difference coaching makes. I mean, we kind of laugh about it. It's all about the player and playing the X's and the O's. But listen, it's the brainchild behind all this. You know what I'm saying? If you don't have the coaching, you don't have a system going. You got even the guy, for another example, for the Indianapolis Colts, was it Daniel Jones? And he comes up there and he lights it up, out of nowhere, and they don't give this man a nickname up there. So listen, if your coaching ain't up to par, your players ain't gonna show. We have been a city and a team that has experienced that. Until we get that coaching, we're gonna be right where we are.
Hey man, look, sometimes Banks, man, it just takes a little bit of change of scenery, man. Some of these guys need to change the scenery. Obviously, yes, coaching plays a big deal in it, man. But sometimes you just need a fresh new look. You know what I'm saying? You just need to get out there and you need to do something different, man. And maybe that's the key to some of these guys. Obviously, Darnold being in a couple of destinations. Obviously, one of the things that comes to mind when I think about Sam Darnold is he landed in San Francisco for just a minute. He was there with Kyle Shanahan, man, and was able to probably learn a little bit about Kyle Shanahan in that offense. And then he moves to Kubiak, who obviously, if you start looking at the NFL like we do, there's a lot of different trees and how it kind of branches out and how people form their offenses, right? And I think Kubiak is of that same kind of page of Shanahan, where they have a similar style of offense ran, and learning a lot from Shanahan probably took him a long way in Kubiak's system up there in Seattle, man. So shout out to Sam Darnold, man. That's a story that I didn't think I'd be seeing him making it to the Super Bowl after that. Dude, and it was a crazy stat I think I saw, Banks, before we move on. I think he was in that draft with like Lamar Jackson and Josh Allen, I think, and I don't know who else was in that draft, but he's the first quarterback out of that draft to actually make it to the Super Bowl, and that's insane, right?
Well, I mean, again, I go back to it. I mean, he went from team to team, and he finally found that spot where the coaching matches up. I mean, you've seen it around the whole league, over time. When that right quarterback gets with that coach, good things happen. I don't even know what to say. How to spell it out even better to just look around. You got Mr. Irrelevant in San Francisco under Kyle Shanahan as we speak. Yes, he's been to the Super Bowl once, but he's been he's the franchise quarterback, Mr. Irrelevant. So, if your coach can bring the best out of you, he can bring the best out of you,
Yeah, and that just goes to show you too, man. Sometimes, it doesn't necessarily mean anything when you get drafted in the NFL draft. We've seen players go in the first round to become busts. We've seen players get drafted as late as the 5th, 6th, and 7th round, become Hall of Famers. So it's not all about, where you get drafted. It's not all about what school you went to. Sometimes it's about, hey, getting into place, just the right fit for you and being able to do what you need to do. All right, Banks. So listen, we're going to get into talking about Atlanta Falcons and their newly hired coach, Kevin Stefanski. Obviously, there was a presser today, and we'll get to some of the bullet points about that. But Banks, before we get into that, man, want to talk about some of the other coaching hires before we start talking about Kevin Stefanski and some of the positions that are still open as of right now as we record this show. Over the weekend, the Steelers announced that they were hiring a hometown guy, Mike McCarthy, to be the head coach of the Pittsburgh Steelers. Talked to a bunch of Steelers fans. Very, very uninspiring hire for them as well. One of my buddies who's a good friend of mine who's a big Steelers fan, man, he was probably more upset with that hire than we were about Kevin Stefanski. He said that basically the white Mike Tomlin, he said he didn't even see the Steelers moving the record. I had to tell him, no, Banks, that the Steelers track record of hiring coaches is usually very good. And that their organization can hold things together. Banks, looking at this hire with Mike McCarthy, like you said, we talked about the uninspiring hire here in Atlanta. We'll get more into it. But do you think this is, par for the course for the Steelers? I mean, like, this was not a big, shocking thing. They bring in a guy with experience previously with the Dallas Cowboys. Now they bring in a hometown guy that's from Pittsburgh and Mike McCarthy.
I don't see a drop off. I mean, a lot of Pittsburgh fans, wasn't, like you said, inspired about the hire. But I will say this, me and you can go and get the head coaching job, and I'm pretty sure they'll still win 9 games. That organization is built solid from the ground up, and it's instilled in that franchise. It's instilled in that city. Whatever that makeup is, they get it done. And call it what you want, Super Bowl or not, they're going to be there in the end, and, you got to just tip your cap to something like that. You talking about a guy named Tomlin who just left there, who I don't think he even had a losing season there. I don't think he even experienced a losing season. So, yeah, I mean, McCarthy, he's coming into a great situation.
I mean, it's the Steelers. I mean, how couldn't, like you said, man, anybody that could coach up there, man. Obviously, there's a culture that's ingrained and built in, and you just have to ride with it. I think anybody that they hired was going to understand that, hey, this is the culture and this is where I am. That blue collar team that just, sets the standard up there in the AFC North. Obviously, Mike McCarthy, being from Pittsburgh, totally understands that, and it totally fits, in my opinion. I mean, but these coaching hires have not been very, I guess, just, as you would say, give you the warm and fuzzies for a lot of teams. I've listened to some sports talk radio and some podcasts for some other teams that were looking for coaches, and a lot of them, outside of the Jim Harbaugh hire in New York, most of the other coaching hires have been kind of just, meh, I guess you should say. Just like the Bills, they announced the day that they were hiring their offense coordinator, Joe Brady, to head up the organization up there with the Bills. So they go in-house, McDermott out, and bring in Joe Brady. Ironically, Joe Brady, I think, interviewed twice for the Falcons head coaching position. Somebody that is very familiar with the Buffalo Bills up there, and obviously with their quarterback, Josh Allen. Banks, how do you feel about this hire in Buffalo? Like I said, once again, nothing that really just moves the needle to give you the warm fuzzies. Talked to a couple of Bills fans, obviously, today, and they were, pretty much, they wasn't over the moon about it. They were like, okay, you know what? Hey, this might be McDermott 2.0.
Listen, the same system is still in place. Joe Brady was there. Same philosophy is intact. Is it all on McDermott? We don't know. We're gonna find out. If you still see Josh Allen out there running for his life and then trying to be Mr. Hero all of a sudden. But again, Buffalo, they are a team that's right down the doorstep. They just need somebody to break it down to get to where they need to be. But I mean, I don't know. I feel like going in the house was kind of a lazy route, I guess. I guess they didn't really want to stir the pot too much, like a total philosophy change. I think they were just looking for something more of a different set of eyes, if you will.
I mean, like I said, Joe Brady's been a solid guy. I mean, like I said, he's been a name that's been bounced around from head coaching searches, over the last couple of years. So, get this guy a shot, man. Buffalo is one of those teams that right now, I still think with Josh Allen being probably one of the better quarterbacks in the league, you still have a window. I've talked to Buffalo fans that are on the fence about that. Good friend of mine, obviously, is a Buffalo fan. He feels like that window is not closed. I told him, I said, listen, you're in a position now that I wish we had here in Atlanta, is who your quarterback is going to be next season, and what he's going to give you. It's just that, can you put the pieces around him to get this done? So, man, like I said, he was very kind of, middle of the road about the hire, and he wanted somebody else, obviously, like we did. And I think as fans, we all kind of have this vision in mind of who we want, and then when it doesn't happen, we're disappointed. But hey, we just have to see how it rolls up there. Speaking of which, I just wanted to get to something, and I want to talk about some opinions of some of the Atlanta Falcons fans as we talk about the Super Bowl here coming up on next weekend, based before we talk about Kevin Stefanski. Obviously, Mike Macdonald and Vrabel were interviewed for the coaching positions here in Atlanta. Obviously, Mike Macdonald was the defensive coordinator with the Baltimore Ravens previously, and then Vrabel was with Tennessee, took off a year, ironically was a consultant in Cleveland, and then he ended up back with his team that he played for, obviously, in New England. There seems to be a consensus, well, I won't say consensus, but there seems to be some talk amongst Falcons fans as though, and we'll talk a little bit about this when we start talking about Kevin Stefanski, that the Falcons' brain trust is not very smart. Okay, Arthur Blank, Rich McKay, whoever you want to say, they're not smart. Because I saw a lot of posts this weekend after the AFC, NFC championships saying that Atlanta, this could have been you. And Banks, I'm going to give you the floor in just a minute, but I want to give my opinion because, like I said, opinions matter. Everybody has one, right? So listen, with that being said, Vrabel and Mike Macdonald obviously have taken their teams respectively to the Super Bowl. Totally different teams, totally different personnel from the Falcons, obviously, right? That Mike Macdonald had. We just talked about Sam Darnold a little bit here, and then we talked about how the Patriots have built their organization and the talent that they have there. Yeah, they didn't come to the Falcons. The Falcons didn't choose them. But we don't know. We don't have crystal ball. We don't know if, in something, miraculous turnaround, we could go back into a time machine and hire Vrabel or hire Macdonald if that would have been the actual coach that would turn this organization around. We just don't know that. Sometimes it's the right fit. And I tell people that all the time. You know, just because you put somebody in place doesn't mean that they can actually make it happen for you. You know, and that's what it is. Sometimes when you look at coaches, and a lot of people have these opinions, and Banks, I'm gonna give you the floor on this. Yeah, the Falcons did not hire McDonald, or they did not hire Vrabel. But who's to say if we would have hired them, would we be playing for a Lombardi on next Sunday? Do you believe that the Falcons actually missed the mark with these coaches by not hiring one of them? Do you actually feel like if we would have hired Vrabel, or if we would have hired McDonald, we would actually be playing for a Lombardi on next week? Or do you feel like, you know, it's the right fit, the right time, and everything just fell into place for these guys with these organizations that they're with now?
Listen, I don't know what these fans talking about, man. If people got amnesia and they feel like they spin this narrative, and whatever fits their narrative, they run with it times 10. Listen, how do we forget the fact that Vrabel was set for New England? Okay, I think he waited for that job opening to come open for him, and I think Robert Kraft was mutual on that same sentiments. Okay, fans, we was not getting Vrabel. Okay, McDonald, if I'm not mistaken, I think he backed out on us. I think he said thanks, but no thanks. I could be wrong. But just because we went and want to hire somebody or interview somebody doesn't mean they want to come here as well. This same thing that just happened is this coaching search this year. You know, yes, I wanted somebody different, but who to say that particular individual wanted to be here? You can't make them coach here. You can't, just because you interview them and if you show them some dollar signs, they can still decline and take less money somewhere else. It doesn't work like that. And you know, it's not Madden. This is not a fantasy world. You know, you can't just go out there and say, I want this as a head coach and it's going to happen. No, it's some stuff that's got to go down into it. It's got to be a two-way street. You know, I feel wholeheartedly that, you know, the whole conversation about the two coaches there in the Super Bowl now, had they been here, no, we would not be in this situation right now, because like you just said, it's supposed to happen for that team. Right fit, right time. You know, maybe our coach will come around someday and be the right fit. But until then, I mean, who knows?
Yeah, and I mean, we can all make speculation. We can all pull up stuff on Google. We can all look on Twitter and look at the past. And, oh, they said this and they said that. The Falcons turned this person down. The Falcons turned that person down. You know, it is what it is. I'm a firm believer, like you just said, you know, Banks, you call it fate. Some people call it destiny, whatever the case may be, man. Sometimes it's the right place at the right time. I think we've all been in that situation, Banks, where we were in the right place at the right time. You know, you were standing in line somewhere and say, hey, somebody said, you want this? Or, hey, do you want to come now for that? Or you know, and I think that's what happened. Like you said, with Vrabel, man, that was the dream location for him to be with the organization that he played for all those years. And, you know, Mike Macdonald just happened to go to a place where, you know, they had some pieces in place, and then, you know, the GM, everything kind of just aligned for them to be. And like I said, they were, you know, they did not have a quarterback in Seattle when he got there. Listen, we talking about a man, Sam Darnold, that's been with 5 teams. You know, they had Geno Smith last year, for God's sakes. And now, you know, who would have thunk it? You just said that Sam Darnold would be the guy that lead them to the Super Bowl. So, I mean, sometimes it's, you know, it's different things that have to align for things to happen, you know. And I'm with you, Banks, that if they would have come here, I can't say definitively that this team would be better off because of it, or we'd be playing for a Lombardi next week. You just don't know. And like you said, who knows? Our guy might be the next guy that's waiting to take the helm. But we'll talk about it here in just a second with Kevin Stefanski. One more thing before we get into talking about the press, because I know y'all want to hear about it, is 3 teams still standing. The Raiders, the Browns, and the Cardinals still looking for head coaches. And I think that it's a reason why they still looking for head coaches. I don't think anybody wants to touch these teams with a 10-foot pole. If I was a head coach, this person, I mean, I don't know a lot of the ins and outs in the NFLs and how these organizations are run, but I can just see that these 3 organizations that are left, the Browns obviously has been a train wreck for years. The Arizona Cardinals, they're in flux. Everything about them, it looks just bad. And then the Raiders, man, my God, like, I don't know. Banks, these 3 these three organizations is left to hire coaches, man. This just, it's not a good look in my opinion. How do you feel about the three teams still left standing looking for a head coach, especially with all the people, before you get into it, especially for all the people that have withdrew their consideration from this Browns debacle? Like, I think three coaches said, nah, we good. I'm gonna keep it moving. I'd rather be a coordinator somewhere, or I might go coach high school football for a year before I go to the Browns.
Well, I look at it like this, laugh at it as you will. We just said it, right place, right time. Who knows, this next coach, whoever Raiders or the Cardinals or the Browns get, might put them over the hump. Laugh if you will, but it can happen. This is NFL. We've seen stuff like this happen. You sit there and it's, these teams are afterthought, and then all of a sudden they come out of nowhere. They got 13 wins on you. So, I don't know what to say. I mean, I guess take a chance. If I'm not mistaken, on that coaching search for the Arizona Cardinals, I trust the Mr. Find a Way is the leading candidate in Arizona. So maybe that might be a new, spot for him, to get Arizona up and running. Who knows? I don't know why the Raiders don't have a coach yet. The fact that you have a number one draft pick in your lap, and let's just go ahead and call it, your quarterback is going to be Mendoza from Indiana. I don't know. Maybe you got coaches out there don't really want to touch that with a brand new quarterback. I don't know. I have no idea. But just to know before even April even gets here that you got a quarterback coming, that's a pretty damn good one.
Man, listen.
And Cleveland, I can't even say anything about Cleveland right now.
I can't, like I said, I can't say nothing about Cleveland right now, man. All of the stuff that I've listened to over the past couple of weeks in Cleveland, man, God bless the people that are Cleveland Browns fans. That's all I have to say. I mean, we talk about the Falcons, we talk about some of the things that make, we scratch our heads with what the Falcons do, man. But I just couldn't imagine every day waking up being a Cleveland Browns fan and just being like, oh God, what is this now? So I mean, it is what it is. We'll see somebody eventually is going to have to be the head coach. I think Jim Schwartz was obviously, they said, leading the charge up there in Cleveland. He's already on staff. He might end up getting that position. Cause like I said, a couple of people are just pulling their name and saying, we're good on that with the dysfunction. All right, let's get into the Kevin Stefanski pressure. Obviously, the Atlanta Falcons today, as we record this podcast, had the official pressure for Kevin Stefanski to announce him as the new head coach here in Atlanta. Matt Ryan introduced him to the press down there at Mercedes-Benz and talked about, some of the things that they look for in their coaching search, a highly vetted coaching search. A lot of references were involved. Matt Ryan talked extensively about how they went together, putting the process together. And they went right into it, letting the media obviously ask questions. Some of the media asked some of the questions that I wanted to hear, and I was very grateful that they did so. So Banks, let's get it all out here. First and foremost, man, obviously Stefanski came here for the interview face to face. They did not let him leave. He said that he loves it here in Atlanta. One of the places that was on his short list when he started to get calls about being a head coach again, he said that Atlanta was on the top of his list. And he made no qualms about the fact that when he came to Atlanta, his suitcase was packed to be ready to go to the next location, because he said you just never know how these things are going to go. But he said obviously that he felt like it was the right fit. I know you didn't watch the pressure, but from what I'm telling you, Banks, and from what you've kind of seen and kind of put together, man, do you feel like obviously this was probably a good spot for him, or he felt that this was one of the top landing spots that he wanted to be at, considering what we have roster wise and who our owner is and who Matt Ryan is?
I mean, I'm pretty sure Matt Ryan had a lot to do with it. Whether it's the right spot, I mean, who knows? I mean, I'm pretty sure he said the same thing any other coach would have said in a presser. I want to be here. It's the same coach speak. That's why I didn't watch, because I don't want to hear the same rubber stamped insert team here. I'm happy to be here with this owner and with this, president and blah, 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 blah. Listen, results for me is on the field, and I know a lot of folks feel the way I feel, because I have glanced on social media and seen like, save that for some, save it for September, because You're not telling me nothing that I already heard from the last coach that just left out of here.
I mean, these are formalities that we have to go through, when you bring in new people to organizations. So obviously there was going to be an introductory press conference. And obviously, yes, you want to get, I think this is a fill out process, especially for the media and to give some insight to the fans as who's actually going to be the coach to kind of hear. I don't necessarily want to say that it's trying to, they're trying to sway you either way, but you do kind of get a somewhat of a feel for their personality and who they are when they do these introductory press conferences. I've heard some that have just been absolutely insane or kind of crazy. When the coach up there in Detroit, when he had his introductory pressure, I think he said something about biting ankles, and then the coach
biting kneecaps,
ankles, same thing, biting legs. And then the weirdest one was the one here recently with the coach down there in Jacksonville when he got, introduced as a coach down there with it Duval. So we felt that was kind of goofy. But hey, look, the Jacksonville Jaguars made the playoffs this year, man. So I think he's going to take that team and do some good things with them as well. Obviously, they have a franchise quarterback down there, and they're looking to, be a contender over there in the AFC. So another thing is, too, Banks, in the pressure that I kind of picked out and I heard a lot was the connection that Matt had with and that you talked about. Somebody that Matt was comfortable with, and they obviously probably had conversations. Do you think, Banks, that this played a lot into the hire? I'm gonna tell you straight up, man. To be honest with you, I think all of us want to be comfortable with the people that we work with, right? I mean, yeah, to a certain extent, you want people that are going to be around you that are going to be assets, but at the same time, I don't feel like we all want to work with a bunch of a-holes. I mean, you want to be comfortable with the people that you work with. You want to make it work. You want to be successful. I don't think we all want to go around working with people that are going to be negative or grumpy all the time. I think you have to find some type of medium. And I think for most of us, we want to be comfortable and work with people that we can have a relationship with, and it could be a positive thing. So how much of the comfortability aspect do you think that, Matt Ryan looked at would bring Stefanski in? Do you felt like, hey, that they were very comfortable, and you felt like that, obviously that they could get this vision that they're trying to kick off, and we'll talk about that in a minute, together with Stefanski?
I mean, it's absolutely comfort. I mean, you come into a situation where you got a guy that you are already, familiar with. I don't know how well they know each other, but I know it's enough to the point where, they come from the same city. Anything that, the what's the term I'm looking for? The 6 degrees of separation with their families, whatever it is, and it gives you comfort. And I'm pretty sure that played a 95, 100% of the time of this particular hire. Looking back on it, I for one, I don't want you coming in and you don't know a soul on the organization. I think that's a plus, I guess, if you want to hang your hat on something. But if you got somebody, you got something, you got somebody I know for certain, a little bit versus not at all. I mean, I guess that's better than nothing, especially in the situation we in.
I mean, yeah, I guess so. Continuity is everything, right? I think it's one of the things where they can build a relationship and kick it off right away and continue to work towards this vision, right? And this was something that was talked about in the presser. Is they asked both Matt and Stefanski about the vision that they have for the team. Obviously, when they talked to Matt about this vision and where it is, it's unclear right now. Which I'm gonna tell you straight up, Banks, I'm fine with that. I don't want somebody that's going to take on something and just say, oh, okay, we're going to do A, B, C, D, E, F, and G, right? And have this thought out master plan as to how things are going to go, because that's not life, right? You have to plan accordingly. And Stefanski said something about, having a map and then the terrain changes and you have to obviously go with the terrain. So I do feel like there is a connection there with the vision that they're looking at. And Matt said that they're going to take it step by step, man. I'm not drinking the Kool-Aid, obviously, but I mean, any time that you're working towards something, I mean, you like to hear people say things like that, right? Is that, you feel it out as you go along, and ultimately the vision will be built based upon the path that you're taking, right? And the things that you see and how they all come together, right? The terrain is going to be the terrain. You can have a map or a blueprint, but hey, if the terrain is something different, then you got to adjust accordingly. I think the last regime had this master plan, and then the terrain changed and they didn't know what to do. And I'm thinking that both Stefanski and Matt Ryan are kind of being open-minded as to how they want to build this vision here for this football team, which is something, like you said, Banks, that we just really haven't had. You talk about identity, you talk about who the Atlanta Falcons are, and you really just can't see that in your head. Do you feel that way like I feel, Banks, that, both Matt and Stefanski can put this together, obviously, and start to build together and, and just freely, run this thing to where they want to get ultimately is to bring a championship to the city?
We can only hope, right? I mean, what kind of fan would I be if I just say no? I mean, at the same time, I don't know. You gotta, I guess, wait and see in this situation. I feel like. Let me ask you this question: do you feel like any other coach that would have came here with the same situation with Stefanski and Matt Ryan's relationship that they have? Let's just say, for instance, that you had a Kubiak come in who probably don't have no connection with Matt Ryan. Do you think that same situation will work to bring the Falcons where they need to be? Or is it solely because of the relationship? And basically, I know you, you know me, and we can make this work versus I don't know you, and let's just see what happens.
I mean, like we just talked about, there had to be some commonality, right? I mean, who's to say, Kubiak, it could have been the same way, but it could have just been a stronger feeling with, I can work on this goal and this vision better with Stefanski, right? Sometimes we talk about chemistry. There's a chemistry thing. They talked. Let's be real. They talked to a lot of coaches. They did during. A lot of people say they did. They didn't take their time. They rushed it. Let me tell you something. This is a multi-million-dollar organization, billion-dollar organization, if you want to say that. I think that they did their due diligence in their vetting process, in their reference process, to bring in the people that they want. And I feel like the chemistry was there, and they felt like because all these guys were great. Harbaugh, Kubiak, I think that Kubiak was the front runner, obviously, for everybody. Him and Harbaugh and Kubiak, obviously, they would have been, I think, great fits. But at the end of the day, Harbaugh went to the Giants, and before Stefanski, kind of sold himself like, hey, man, this is what I can do, and I feel like this is where I can take this, and I feel like the chemistry was there, and it was enough for the organization to say, okay, you know what, this is the guy that we want to put in place. So, like you said, Banks, as a fan, I'm waiting to see if this will happen. Like I said, I'm not cautiously optimistic is my phrase, obviously, all the time. I'm not drinking the Kool-Aid like I have in the past. But I'm this is something that I'm interested in seeing as a fan, is watching Stefanski and Matt Ryan and obviously our GM come in together and see how they can get this all to play. So to bring it around, to talk a little bit about the GM search right now. Matt Ryan did bring up the fact that they're bringing in a couple of people for the GM search, obviously for face-to-face interviews. Banks, now we hired Kevin. People say it a little too fast, but now we're really, really taking our time with this GM search. Do you see anything or can read anything into being this kind of methodical with this GM search? Because obviously we could have snapped somebody up. We didn't have too many teams, and I don't think that were looking for a GM. I think we may have been the only team that was looking for a GM. But they're being very methodical about this GM hire.
Well, it just tells me that he's not going to really have a say or a position what you think he's going to have. The reason why I say that is because you got your head coach, you got your president, and it seems like they are a tandem. It seems like the GM would not have to only answer to what Matt Ryan. I don't think the head coach is answering to the GM. I don't think that, if it was me, I would like to see the GM there in this presser, as a unit to see what your vision is. So y'all could be on the same page. I don't need somebody coming in through the back door. Oh, this is what we're doing. Okay, I guess I'll go along with that too. That's kind of I don't know. I see lots of wrongs in that. Whoever they bring in, I don't know. They got to go and dance to the beat of their drum. And I think that's kind of a like why is he even there if he's going to sit there and conform to what they say, and whoever this GM is, he's not going to really have a backbone, if you will. He's going to have to do exactly what they say, or if he has an opinion about something, well, that's not what we want, and okay, well, he's going to have to go with it. I don't like that format. And it seemed like we just left. We was trying to get away from that, with Terry Fontenot. And it seemed like we're right back to where we started, So I don't know. I could be absolutely wrong. But at the same time, it just don't seem like it's going to be a bunch what they say is being in agreement on or on a vision about the franchise. It's going to be either my way or you go along with it, or it'll be my way and you kick rocks because you didn't do what I say. And
well, I can tell you what they pitched. I can tell you a little bit about what they pitched today when it comes to from what Kevin Stefanski said. Because this question was posed to him immediately off the gate by our man D.O. Landoleb. D.O. Landoleb from AJC. The first question was, how did he feel about, the quarterback situation here with Penix and Kirk Cousins, obviously with him working with Kirk Cousins when he was with the Minnesota Vikings. And Kevin Stefanski immediately said that, those personnel decisions and personnel things will be handled accordingly once they get a GM in place. And, he spoke very highly of Kirk Cousins, but that just let me know that, Stefanski is driven on, putting together a grocery list and passing that grocery list over to the brain trust of the GM to buy the groceries. He didn't go into any more detail about anything other than the fact that we needed to bring that other piece in, the GM, so they can all kind of get together to see what they want to do position by position. So, I just feel like that, at this point, the GM that they bring in is going to be somebody very strong to look at these personnel things, which also brings me to another thing. When we talked about him being with the Cleveland Browns, obviously, how much involved was he with the player personnel decisions? And from the answer that he gave at the presser, it sounds like he trusted the organization to bring him the pieces and the players that he needed to do his job and to prepare them to go out on the field and be successful. It didn't sound like he was a meddler. It sounded like he had input, but at the same time, he trusted the people that were in those positions to bring the players in, to bring him the talent he needed to do what he needed to do. Obviously, like I said, we talked about that train wreck up there in Cleveland and personnel. So I don't know, man. But that's what they pitched today. He pitched the fact that they were waiting on that third piece to really start digging into some of the player personnel issues. So another thing is, Banks, we're going to move forward to talk about this. And I know this is what a lot of fans were talking about and a lot of fans want to get into, is from an offensive perspective, what is his identity offensively and where does he see this offense go? Obviously, Banks, we don't know who's going to be our starting quarterback this fall. But what does he want to do? First things first, he made it clear that Tommy Rees was going to be calling the offensive plays. Banks, I know you were not very high on that. Banks, you want to talk a little bit about Tommy Rees calling the offensive plays? I know he was the play caller in Cleveland, and Stefanski said that he would be the play caller here in Atlanta. So your thoughts on Tommy Rees calling the plays?
Okay, so I didn't know that. I didn't know that's what he said. Oh man. Crap. Oh boy. I have no like that. Are you serious, dude? He really said that? Like he really said that Tommy Rees is gonna call the plays. Like
yeah,
that
that's what he said. I mean, he said that Tommy Rees was gonna be calling the plays. He said that, obviously he's gonna be hands-on. I mean, take it for what it's worth. He said that, he'll basically be caddy to Tommy Rees, but Tommy Rees will be calling the plays, and Matt Ryan backed him up. They felt comfortable. Obviously, they said all the references and everything checked out with Tommy being an OC. So he said that that's who's going to be calling the plays on Sundays for the Falcons. I mean, I kind of feel indifferently about it. I mean, I have to do a little more research and kind of look into, the style of play and what was being done, because I think this last year here up in Cleveland, he just relinquished that over to him to start calling plays. So he doesn't have a lot of experience. Obviously, we just came out
No,
of a
he did it
situation where
twice.
okay.
He did it 2 times.
So obviously we coming out of a situation, Banks, where we had somebody that was a first-time NFL play caller, and we were very, very all of us fans were very, very upset about that. We felt like there could have been some changes made with that. But Tommy Rees will be calling the plays per Kevin Stefanski today at the press.
Well, I don't like it. I don't like it. You got a guy who came from Cleveland calling plays. They were ranked 31st last year and ranked 30th the year before that. Again, both times Tommy Rees was the one calling the shots. I don't have a problem with Stefanski calling the plays, but if you're going to just give it all to him, it's almost like Zach Robinson all over again. Listen here. My issue with this team is what are you going to do when that team zero ends on number 7? What is your other option? How creative can you be instead of just going to Drake London and then that's it? I mean, it's almost like if you didn't have the workhorses in Cleveland to do your job, what are you going to do here? Because it's not like you got a arsenal here. I would rather, I don't know, dude. I really didn't think that Tommy Rees was brought here to call plays. I really thought he was just going to be someone to be like a quality control, kind of set the plays up for Stefanski to call. I don't know, man. That really put a damper on everything now. I really, really was not expecting to hear that. Now, I mean, it's whatever for me. I really don't care. I really don't.
I mean, we gotta wait and see. I mean, I'm not sold on this either, Banks. I have to wait and see. Obviously, like I said, I'm kind of indifferent. I don't want to just jump on it and be like, this is not gonna work, because this is my team. I want to see it work. Obviously, I don't want to be going down this road in 2 years, and I'm not going to sit up here and call it like, okay, yeah, he sucks. This is not going to work. This was an idiot move. It was an idiot hire. Obviously, they know something we don't. I hope they do anyway. So we're going to see. We're going to wait this thing out and see what the end's going to be. But yeah, Tommy Rees is going to be actually calling the plays. Other side of the ball, something that I felt was very interesting with the defense and Jeff Ulbrich being here was the fact that Kevin Stefanski's never worked with Jeff. But he spoke very, very highly of Jeff. And I think that conversation went when they decided to hire him as the head coach is that we want to retain Jeff as the defense coordinator. And did he have a problem with that? And he obviously said no. Obviously, I think I found out a couple of days ago that Nate Ollie's going to also be retained as the defensive line coach. Banks, how do you feel about that? I mean, there was some conversation. I know Derrico said that, if we were going to blow it up, get rid of everybody. But, I mean, Jeff Ulbrich worked so well this year with the defense. And we talked about it on the last podcast that how, this defense, obviously the most sacks that they've had in the franchise. We got some very young players that Ulbrich was working with. And I think that one of the things Matt Ryan and the Brain Trust looked at was that, hey, man, Ulbrich has something going with this defense, and we want to continue to build on the continuity with that. But it was just interesting to me. I mean, we always talk about the NFL coaching fraternity, so I'm pretty sure that he was very familiar with Jeff. But he was saying that he hadn't worked with him, but had a lot of respect for him. And we know that Jeff and that defense is going to be solid. Do you feel like that's a good move on Stefanski, or do you feel like that this was something that was sold to him by our Brain Trust? Or do you feel like he was just like, what, I'm comfortable with that, and I have a lot of respect for Jeff?
It was the latter. I'm pretty sure someone said, listen, we would prefer you retain the service of Mr. Ulbrich. And I'm pretty sure Stefanski at the time, just being so happy to get hired, he just went along with it. I don't think it's something that he just, I don't know. I really don't know. But I know what Arthur Blank said, he would prefer that the next coach retain him. He didn't say he was going to make them retain him, but he said prefer. That was the key word. So I'm pretty sure that was spoken in a lot in that interview. If we hire you, will you be okay if this individual stays here with his staff? And I'm pretty sure they had a PowerPoint presentation about what the defense came from to where it was just last year. And let's make no mistake about it. Those sacks saved Ulbrich, bro. Those sacks, those franchise record sacks is what is retaining him. It wasn't because of anything else. I think the defense is coming along better, and I think the continuity of him staying would make them progress, if you will. That's the right word. But the sacks, since we ain't never had them in so many years, we were kind of outdid. We were blown away the fact that we was able to get them in second in the league. Thanks to the part of Ulbrich and his staff.
So with that being said, you're comfortable with the move of keeping Ulbrich here and letting him work some more with his defense, correct?
Yeah, why not? I mean, continuity won't hurt nobody. I mean, let's say, you bring in another defensive piece, in this offseason to go along with what you got. These guys on that defense is young, and I think, they want to turn that corner. And for me to actually watch it in real time, it's a treat to see that they're young and they can grow into their own. It's something that we've been clamoring for years, Leo. I can tell you, I can't recall how many times we've said we would love to have a defense. Give me an average defense, just give me something, But being ranked at the bottom 5 of the league every year was getting old. It was getting old very quick.
And some will argue to say that this defense was average. I mean, nothing spectacular. Obviously, Banks, you hit it home every week that somebody needed to step up and make plays in key situations. But this defense is, like you said, they're young. They're very young, and I think that they learned a lot this season. Bringing Ulbrich back is going to be very beneficial to these guys because they can continue to grow in his system. Bowman, Watts, Pierce, Jalen Walker. I mean, these guys are going to grow into year 2, and like you said, they might. If we are seeing the surface being scratched, we don't know what his ceiling could be with these guys. You know what I'm saying? If you could keep Ulbrich in, and obviously all those guys love Brick and what he was able to do. All of them spoke highly of him. I didn't hear any kind of chatter on the defensive side of the football when it came to what Brick was over there doing, man. So all those guys love him. Obviously, Nate Ollie, who did wonders and was being courted by other teams as well, man. So I feel like it was a good move. I don't feel like it was a make or break thing for Stefanski if he said, I want to bring somebody else in. But clearly he understood that, with the track record that Brick has had with his defense, that it was probably going to be beneficial to him to keep everything in place. And I think that they probably talked, and I think that they probably had a mutual understanding of, hey, you know what? You got everything together over there. I'm comfortable with you. You've been coaching for, because, Brick played in this league, and he's been a coach, interim head coach. He's, the guy's an asset. You know what I'm saying? You want a guy like Brick on your staff. So I think that it was kind of a no-brainer to say, hey, you know what? Let me not even go through the search and look to, he probably had some people on the short list, but you had somebody in-house, man. You know what? Hey, that's just like moving in the house and all the furniture there. Hell, let's just keep it rolling. This furniture brand new. All we gotta do is take the plastic off. So he just decided to keep Brick there. Obviously, didn't do a lot of research on the new special teams coordinator. Obviously, that was a point of contention with us. So we got a brand new.
I can say he came from the Miami Dolphins, and I did a little research on it. I think in the past couple of years, they've been in the top 10 in special teams. Take it for what it's worth. I think that's better than what we are, if I'm not mistaken. But hell, I'll take it at this point. I mean, if you get someone that can actually, go out there and fill a kickoff properly, I'll take that. I'll take that running.
Yeah, man, it's the little things when it comes to special teams. I tell people that all the time, right? Like, special teams is probably one of the most detailed coaching positions in all of football. Because, you have a little bit of room for error, offense and defense, right? Sometimes the play that you call might not be, pristine, but you still have some buffers with some athletes that can make some plays. But sometimes special teams comes down to being detailed, Banks, and making sure that everybody knows what they're supposed to do. There was a lot of it just looked like chaos on special teams, for lack of a better word, that we watched this year. Not just with the kicking, but just like with coverage and returns. Everything about special teams, in my opinion, was horrible. they tried to turn it on toward the end of the season and make some plays. I think we blocked the punt here or two or did some things, but that's too little, too late. From you want to be judged from beginning to end, and when you start turning it on at the end, it's a sign of desperation, in my opinion, and it just wasn't enough to obviously retain the special teams coach. We kind of knew that he was going to kick rocks with Zach Robinson and Ra when they were out the door. So Banks, man, two more things I want to get to, and then we'll obviously try to close this thing out. One of the things is that they asked, obviously, the Orlando Ledbetter, shout out to him. They kind of made a state. So so I'm gonna kind of set this up. Our friend Mike Bell over there, 92.9 The Game, said, ask Stefanski about the comments that Baker Mayfield made. And obviously, Stefanski being a professional, as professional as he is, talked about Baker and how he had the utmost respect for Baker as a player and as a person, and that he looks forward to the rivalry with the Bucs 2 times a year. He understands that, these division rivalries here in the NFC South deserve their own due, because he said that he's a football fan and has watched from afar that the NFC South has some of the most intense rivalries in all of NFL. Shout out to NFC South. We say this all the time. Very intense with the rivalries. We may have sucked this year as a whole division, but the rivalries are still there, and they're still solid in the NFL. Everybody still hate the Aints, by the way. So as we turn it over to the Orlando Ledbetter, he went to Matt Ryan and said, hey, man, look, you talking about the Bucs, but Matt, have you told this man about the Aints and how that works? And Matt was like, yeah, we're going to definitely make sure he understands that. And, I kind of chuckled with that, Banks, man, because, hey, if anything you need to know, if you're going to be the head coach of the Atlanta Falcons and you want to know about this fan base, is that, hey, yeah, we want to win a Super Bowl. But let me tell you something. When we line up against that old funky black and gold, oh, you better be ready. And you better understand that we don't play about that, man. So 2 parts to that, Banks. I don't know if you want to comment about the whole Baker Mayfield comments and the fact that he's going to have to get in early on these NFC South division rivals.
I didn't have anything. I didn't feel anything. When I first read the comments with Baker Mayfield from Orlando Ledbetter. I don't know the situation if Stefanski let Mayfield go or Baker was. I don't know. I don't know the situation, and I guess it kind of fell by the wayside for me. For what I think people are making a big deal about is the fact that he said something about see you in twice a year or something like that. Okay, Baker, man, we played you well. You know what I'm saying? I don't think that's going to change because we changed coaches. I can care 2 flips about that. As for those Aints down there in Louisiana, yes, that's important. That's what you need to lock in on, sir. I had my conversations with you, Leo, about organizational. How do you feel about that team down there versus how that team feels about us? And it seemed like it's kind of lopsided. You talk about, the Aints, and the Falcons coming down there in their city, and they feel some type of way. When I was down there this past year, they have a hatred for us to the point where it's overblown to me. When we come here in Atlanta and the Saints come up here, and it's like it's another game, but we hate them though. It's not the same intense. No. It's not the same intensity. And I saw it firsthand.
Hold on, wait, stop. Wait, stop, Bank. Wait, stop. Listen, first of all, I'm not letting you go any further with that. I'm not letting you give them anything about how intense they are down there. Listen, they not intense. They not. They some soft fans. Yeah, I said it. They're not intense. They might put on a good show, but no, we are intense when it comes to this rivalry. I don't want you to say they out-rival us, Banks. Don't you ever say that the Aints out-rival us, because they don't.
Let me tell you something. Wait,
stop. Hold on. Stop you there. I know you were just down there, and I know I know how you feel. I know what they did. I know all of them. They're not going to out-rival us, okay? I just wanted to put that out there. I didn't mean to get too hyped, Bank, but I'm not gonna let you hype up their fan base to say they out rivaling us. But go ahead.
I'm not hyping them up, but I'm not going to call what I see over because of my fanhood. Bump that. What I saw down there was they go all out of the hatred. What we do is, yes, we hate them, but we don't go all out for it. They go all out to the point where they going and doing parades in our expense. You know what I'm saying? They going all out to the point where they got their own MC at the basketball game that has nothing to do with the Falcons Saints, but they talking about that game at the Pelicans game to the point where it just got the whole entire fans just riled up. Listen, I hate those guys down there. I mean, I hate them with a passion. But when you ask them people down there, they get in their feels when we win. They want to fight us. We have to get the hell out of there. Let me tell you something. I've never seen that here. And I hate it. You may not want to hear it, Leo. You may not want to hear it, but I'm telling about everybody out there. Okay. Hold on, wait a minute. Let me finish. When I'm here living my own city, and all I want is to bring out that same pettiness that they bring out on us. And we still, listen, you got to do something more than just say visitors on our scoreboard. You got to do a little bit more than that, okay? Go a little bit, be a little bit more grimy with it, okay? Because they are very grimy when it comes to us.
Okay, listen.
They very grimy.
First of all, let me make some statements here. I'm never going to, let's not confuse passion with idiotic, okay? I'm not fighting anybody. Okay, this is a rivalry. This is you're supposed to have a healthy dislike or hatred towards your rival. But let's be clear. It's passion and then there's idiotic. And yes, pettiness comes with it, all of that, the trash talk. But you know what I'm not gonna condone is anybody going out and fighting or being physical about it, because it's not that serious. At the end of the day, we want to have, rivals are just that, they're rivalries. We want to beat them very, very bad, but at the end of the day, I want everybody to go home. I don't want nobody to go into the hospital. I don't want anybody to go, anywhere else. So let's just make that clear. But passion is I feel like our passion as fans is not rival to theirs. And obviously, Banks, I do understand that they go a little extra, and we're trying to come along and try to do some things. But at the end of the day, man, hey, I think that they're not gonna out rival us. And I get it. Some of the stuff that we do might not be to a certain level that we would like as fans, but as a fan, speaking for most of my Falcons fans, I can say that the Aints fans are not gonna out rival us. Listen, Banks, we don't come to the mark, man. You got me all fired up talking about these Aints, man, and the emotion of it all. So I hope, listen, I don't know if Kevin Stefanski ever listened to this podcast. I hope he does. But you gotta understand, if you just heard the emotion coming out of my voice about talking about that team down there in that booth, you better find a way to ball that up and sell it to them boys when they go down there and play them, and when they come up here and play us, man. Because obviously, man, we don't want, shout out to them boys sweeping them this year. Obviously, that's been a long time coming, man. Obviously the season did not go our way, but at the end of the day, when I think about everything that happened in this season, baby, I say, you know what, we did sweep them, boy. We did sweep them. So,
we can definitely hang our hats on that, bro. I could not stand to hear them Who-Dats talking had they won that game. And, shout out to the Falcon fans that were still there at that game. And, I know we got to go, but you stood your ground. You got even Ain't fans out there talking about it was no big deal. Well, let me tell you something. It was a big deal, because it would have been a big deal had y'all won the damn game. It would have been a big deal for y'all. Listen, if it wasn't a big deal, you would have never been there. You would have been it's been whatever. Y'all was down there, Who-Dat and all second line of down our concourses. Listen, exactly. My point is, take the L, and we're gonna see you again next year with the same damn ass whooping. Yeah, I said it. Another ass whooping.
For sure. Listen, Banks, we come to the end of the podcast here, man. Obviously, a lot more to talk about here. We still hadn't gotten to the personnel aspect of this. So obviously, Banks, if you don't mind, on the next podcast, I want to get into some of the personnel issues and questions that we're gonna have to talk about coming up, obviously, on the next podcast. Projected cap space, Banks, believe it or not, even with some of the mismanagements that we've had, roughly about $27 million in cap space, which is about the middle of the pack for the NFL, believe it or not. So, and if they make some more moves here, but going into the draft and free agency could probably free up a little more. So, yeah, we have enough money to go out and put some more pieces together on both sides of the football. So that's kind of cool to look at. I mean, yeah, obviously it's not $100 million like the freaking Tennessee Titans, but $27 million is more than enough to bring in some good pieces. Obviously, the Saints are like the Aints, I'm sorry, excuse me. I don't know where the S came from. Negative $41 million. I still don't know how they operating down there with negative money. Mickey Loomis is a wizard or some type of sorcerer or something. I have no idea how they do that. Yeah, but 27 million, obviously, on the next podcast, Banks, we'll get into some personnel decisions that need to be made and where we can strengthen up this team. All right, brother. So look, man, about to close this thing out, man. Let everybody know where they can find you at, brother.
For right now, just follow me on Antoine Jarrell Banks on Facebook. Still working out the kinks on Instagram. Trying to get my situation with my computer to get, maybe I could just buy a whole nother one, you know what I'm saying? Because I'm sick of this back and forth. But hey, let me tell you something. I'm still here on ATL 3 style. You can find me around with these two knuckleheads with Leo and Derico. Just hit me up.
Obviously, man, don't forget about our boy over there in Eastlands Woodworking, man. Hit that QR code on the screen. Man, hit him up, man, for all your woodworking needs, man. Shout out to our boy Phil over there. Shout out to our boy Derico, obviously, as well, man. Hopefully he'll be back in it with us on next week, man, as we talk about some more ATL sports stuff, man. We got to lock in and talk about some Hawks. We got to talk about some Braves. We got to talk about some Atlanta United. Hopefully we can get our boy Reggie on as well to give us an MLS preview, as the MLS season, Banks, is right around the corner. We actually, we down in the stretch, man. We probably got only about, I want to say 90 days, man, and we'll be sha-la-la-la down at Mercedes-Benz for the opening MLS game coming up in March. All right, man. So this is going to do it, man. Also, visit all of our social media. That's ATL 3 Style. You can find us everywhere, man. Insta, X, whatever, YouTube, Facebook. Make sure you follow, like, and subscribe. And we'll catch y'all again on the next go-round with another edition of the ATL 3 Style podcast.